before you saw the answers, what you might have chosen as the number one effect on student achievement. How many of you said mixed ability grouping, number one? Okay, how about class size, number one? Prior achievement, number one. The teacher, number one. All right, all right. We all believe that, don't we? And this is how it ranked in this particular study, or these items ranked in this particular study. And if we can give you that citation if you'd like to go and read some of the statistics that are there. But what it's not saying is that mixed ability grouping did not have an effect, okay? I just want to make that clear. It did not say that. It did not say that class size does not have an effect. It did not say that prior achievement does not have an effect, because it does. All right? What it said was that the greatest effect on student achievement was the teacher. Okay? Now, mixed ability grouping, we know and we use flexible grouping quite a bit, right? Where sometimes we have students when they're heterogeneously, in heterogeneous groups, sometimes in homogeneous groups, based on their needs at the time, and we use flexible grouping quite a bit because different ways of grouping meets different needs of kids, okay? We also have class size. And this is actually an experiment that Tennessee did. Were you aware of that? The Tennessee class size experiment, where they had a randomized experiment. They randomly assigned kids to teachers, which never happens in our field of education. Okay, we don't typically have a true experimental design because you just don't randomly assign kids to a treatment option, right? Well, they did that. They randomly assigned kids. And is it an expensive proposition to reduce class size? It is. And what Tennessee wanted to see is that if we reduce class size, are we going to get a bump in student achievement? Okay? And they found that they didn't get the bump that they were looking for. So is it cost effective, right? Is it a cost effective reform to reduce class size? Now, anyone in here knows that if I'm an effective teacher, I can do gangbusters with 5 versus 35, right? If I'm an ineffective teacher, I'm going to be ineffective with 5, or I'm going to be ineffective with 35. Okay? Right. So class size did not get the bump that they were that they thought they would. Prior achievement, there is no doubt that prior achievement does have an effect on student achievement, what they're going to score the next year. And in fact, it was very close to the teacher. In this particular study, it was very close. But the teacher had the largest effect on student achievement. Any comments or questions about what we've just talked about or shared, or any thoughts at your table about this discussion? Yes, ma'am.
In our group, we talked about the fact that teachers' response will probably be very different than what we said. Of course, we all came up with the teacher being having the greatest impact. And we said teachers would probably think prior achievement of class size.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, good point. Did you hear her point was that teachers might respond differently when you ask this question of teachers. They might say that prior achievement makes the greatest difference, that class size makes the greatest difference. And what you can share are these studies, and I'll share with you some other studies about that. But we're not discounting. We say, yes, if I'm a good teacher, I can be a really good teacher with 10 versus 25, right? Okay? Prior achievement does impact how students are going to perform the next go around in the next round of testing. But the teacher, folks, is the one who makes the greatest impact on the student learning. They're the ones, and in fact, if you think about in terms of increasing student achievement, they're the ones, the teacher, who makes that curriculum in which the students will engage come to life, right? They're the ones who uses those various instructional strategies to ensure that students learn and are able to achieve. And so we'll share some more, but you're right, may see that as the greater impact. Okay, other thoughts or yes, discussions?
What year was that study conducted in Tennessee again? Do you?
That was in 98, I believe it was published. That was a value-added study. And there are other studies that we reference in the reference materials, more recent studies that have also used the value-added model that have shown that teachers make the greatest impact on student achievement. In fact, one that was published in 2004 showed that it mattered more what teacher a child happened to get within a school than what school the child happened to attend. It matters more what teacher a child happens to get in a school than what school the child happens to attend, right? Because when we average them all together, it masks variability, right? And we have variability within a school, okay? Other thoughts? Yes?
I have two questions. The first, did the researchers translate any of this to percents so that you could say the teacher provided X percent growth to the child through the effect?
In other studies, and I'll share that with you, in other studies they have used the value-added model to predict where the child should, and then I'll share another study that shows the explained variance on student achievement where you will get a percent. Okay.
The other question would be, there are many more
Absolutely.
variables to student learning, but these four were put on the screen. I'm anticipating other questions as we go out to districts. What about family and home connections and parental support and whatever? Did the researchers in Tennessee have any data to show how these effects might change student achievement?
Absolutely. Well, first, the answer is no in not this particular study, but we do know that those aspects that you just shared are actually correlates of the achievement gap, okay, that you just shared. The home environment, and one proxy might be for the home environment, the TV watching time that a child might do, and things of that nature. The educational attainment of the parents and aspects like that. We're going to look at some other studies that looked at that. This one in particular did not focus on those variables. This was focused on really the class size issue, but we'll look at some others that brought in those aspects. But you're right. Yep. You're welcome. Other questions, comments? And so Dr. Strong, myself, and another colleague at the College of William & Mary, we just published in the Journal of Teacher Education on a study looking at the one-year impact of effective versus less effective teachers, okay? And I want to share with you some of the results of this study. Now, on your next page, you're going to see a chart that has a bunch of dots on it. And this doesn't show up as well. We might need to change the coloring of this chart so it shows up a little better. Now, what we did is we used a value-added model in which we focused on some of those aspects that impact student achievement, like prior achievement. We have socioeconomic status, which what is the proxy for socioeconomic status that we use? Free lunch, free and reduced lunch. We put those aspects into the model in order to predict how students should perform the next year, right? So based on how they performed last year and all these factors that impact student achievement, how should they perform next year, okay? So we put that into a model, and we have a nice little graph that comes out like that, which is a good looking graph because we have like a line of best fit if you know anything about that kind of thing, right? So we got a pretty good looking graph, and I'd like to show you what you're looking at. Whoa, not that, but that. On the left side, and this is from a reading test, you have what we predicted. Those are the scale scores, and you see the numbers there? Those are scale scores. You're aware of scale scores, right? You have your own criterion referenced assessments here in the state of Louisiana. These are scale scores, what we predicted the student should perform in 5th grade, all right? On the bottom, we have the actual reading scores, okay? And then we kind of marry them up together, right? And put them on our chart. Now let me point out a few of these scores to you. All right.